Good afternoon, everyone. Like what I mentioned earlier, our free webinar for this month of March is on personal development. We're going to talk about unlocking executive presence. In the past few sessions, we've had a session on team development where we talked about setting team norms. We also usually do HR spotlights where we look into a certain function or skill that's necessary for HR professionals. For this month, we'll do something a little bit more personal. We'll talk about a skill that we can all develop as professionals in the workplace. That is executive presence. Before we dive in, I think some of you might be new learning with us. So let me introduce myself. You can call me Elisha. I'm a management consultant, and my firm, Elisha Corpus Consulting, focuses on culture transformation, leadership development, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We work with different organizations from very small companies to huge multinationals and even giving their workshops to their different offices around the world. This is something that I intentionally do because I enjoy seeing the diversity of people, the diversity of their needs, of cultures, of capabilities, and that just makes work more interesting for me. So that's the short version of who I am and what I do as a consultant. I'd love to share a bit of a story that's related to our session for today. When we think about executive presence, it's something that we associate with leaders, right? When I was very early in career, I actually started my career with Microsoft in the US. I worked in their headquarters as part of the global learning and development team. So over there, when I started, I was one of the youngest people in the team. I was pretty much the only international person, the only person from the Philippines. So it can be very intimidating if you think about that. In the beginning, definitely it was something that was hard to do. It was hard to find my voice amidst people who were such experts in their fields. But I had a leader. So one of the leaders in my team, I had a one-on-one with him and I shared about my struggle. I was telling him that it's hard for me sometimes to share in meetings. I get shy. I'm not sure if I'm conveying the right idea or even asking questions in the right way. So what this leader said was, you know what? Just take your time to learn, listen to the people around you, keep on learning until you find your own practice point of view. Then one day, other people will seek you out for that point of view. So that's what I did. And, very lucky, very blessed to be given that opportunity to learn from those people. So when I decided to come back home here in the Philippines, I found that I was more confident in talking about my own point of view. I was confident in sharing what I know and the expertise that I've built through the years. So this picture that I'm sharing with you, this was taken earlier this month. I was part of a panel in a big company's conference for their people, their employees. They had a learning conference about leadership and the future of work. So I was a panelist that was invited to share about my thoughts on those topics. So that's just a short story on my journey with executive presence and how I was able to hone in on that. My hope is that through this session, you all will also begin thinking about your journey towards developing that executive presence even more. With that, let's go ahead and let's start developing our own executive presence. What you can do right now is you can go to www.menti.com and then use the code 4825-1078, or you can also click the direct link that I just shared in the chat. On Mentimeter, It would be great if you could describe an executive. What or who is an executive for you? Think about how they look like, how they dress, how they talk, whatever the first thing that comes to mind for you, go ahead and type that on our Mentimeter, everyone. Let's see, we have 6 responses already so far. So keep on going. Again, you can go to www.menti.com and use the code that I'm flashing there on top of the screen. Or you could also click on the direct link that I pasted in the chat. Okay. Someone who's confident, always in a blazer, in a business outfit, corporate attire, diba? Tama? Okay. Yeah. Professional, power dressing, someone who's always giving directions. Someone with poise, talks maturely. Someone who's more formal. It looks like confident is becoming the biggest word over there. Let's see. What are the other things that people talk about? I see mabango. Pwede naman. Maybe that's part of the poise and the confidence. Someone who looks sharp, firm, classy, strong aura. All right. Someone with integrity and discipline as well. Okay, great. I think we have a lot of responses so far. So it's great that we all have some idea of what an executive usually looks like or could be like. The thing about executive presence, though, is many of us will have biases about leadership and executive presence. For example, thinking that someone in a blazer is an executive or an executive is someone who power dresses. These are probably unconscious biases that we have because of the stereotypes that we've seen around us in the media, when we watch TV, when we watch movies. These are the stereotypes of what an executive looks like. And so when we have these biases, it makes us associate these qualities, these descriptions with executives. One of the things we can do to reduce these biases is to first to recognize them. We have to be aware that we have certain stereotypes that we associate with different roles and different levels. My hope is that in this webinar, we're going to look into these biases. We're going to look into our usual thoughts, feelings, emotions associated with executives, and then find that even in our unique way, we all can actually have that executive presence. So what are we going to do this afternoon? Number one, we're going to talk about what are the key elements of executive presence and why do these matter for career growth? Number two, we're going to talk about how we can communicate with confidence and authority, especially in high stakes situations. We have a case study, and I hope you were able to read that case study. I sent it via email, and we also posted it online via our to read that. But if not, hold on there and through that and later on will guide you more. Number three, we are credibility and ensure that your contributions are recognized. Of course, we will not walk away from today's session without actionable strategies that you can do so you can apply executive presence. With that, everyone, Can we give a thumbs up if you're ready to dive into our first learning objective? Let's see. Do I see thumbs? Perfect. Okay. So, why should we pay attention to all this? First of all, we have to understand why executive presence matters. When we look into the research on executive presence, one of the things that will pop up would be around women. Women are more likely than men to be given feedback about executive presence. Hold on, everyone. So please avoid annotating. I'm just going to clear that. And there we go. Okay. So women are more likely to be given feedback that they need to develop executive presence. That's because women are 38% times more likely than men to have their competence questioned at work. This is from a study by McKinsey and the Lean In Group. In 2023, they released this study. So what this says is, at work, mas question yung mga babae usually when it comes to our expertise. Mas hindi pinapaniwalaan paminsan, or it takes women more effort to prove our competence, to prove that we know what we're talking about. Again, that's because of the unconscious biases that we talked about earlier. When women are given feedback, it's usually vague and subjective. For example, women are usually told to be more confident, be more assertive, versus the feedback that's given to men would usually be more direct and more actionable. For example, feedback given to men would usually be structure your conversation in this way, or use this kind of tone when you're talking to your direct report. So kita niyo yung pagkakaiba, di ba? Mas meron kang pwedeng magawang action in order to improve your behavior when you're given that kind of direct, specific feedback. We also know that women's ideas are often dismissed until repeated by a male colleague. It's a common thing to see in our everyday life, and it's also something that the research seems to agree with. What this tells us is, usually daw, kapag ka female yung nagsabi ng idea, hindi mo na pinapakinggan. Tapos kapag ka may ibang tao, usually a male colleague who would bring up that same idea, then it's heard by the others. These are just some of the experiences of women around executive presence in the workplace. We bring this up because, as we all know, it's Women's Month this March, and it's something that we have to be aware of. Whether you identify as a woman, a man, or a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, it's good to know that these biases exist. The thing is, though, executive presence is important not just for women. Actually, executive presence is linked to career progression for all genders, all professionals. People who project confidence and communicate effectively are 2.5 times more likely to be hired. That's according to an article on Harvard Business Review. And people who project confidence and communicate well are more likely to be promoted as well. So as we can see, honing our executive presence is actually something that we need to grow further in our careers. That's why I'm glad that today we have quite a diverse audience. Executive presence will be useful for all of us, all professionals in any role, in any level. Now that we've talked about the why, let's dig into the what. So what is executive presence in the first place? I'm going to read this definition, and then as I read, everyone, here's what I'm inviting you to do. In the chat box, go ahead and type the word or phrase that is standing out for you that you think would be the most important to remember in the definition. Okay? So as I read, you can do that. Executive presence is the ability to project confidence, credibility, and leadership in a way that inspires trust and influence. It's about how you carry yourself, how you communicate, and engage with others to command respect and attention. So go ahead, type in the chat what are some of the words that you think are must remember in the definition. Yeah, okay, credibility, definitely very important. Leadership as well. How you carry yourself, very important as well. All right. So, for me, these are the words and phrases that I hope you can remember. Executive presence is an ability. When something is an ability, that means it's a skill. If it's a skill, that means you can learn it, you can develop it. You're not born with a set level of executive presence. Ibig sabihin, hindi na pinanganak ka lang na confident or pinanganak ka na hindi confident. Lahat ng tao, kaya natin i-practice yung confidence na yun. Kaya natin siya i-develop para ma-apply natin siya in different aspects of our lives. So I hope that's a comforting thought for all of us, that executive presence can be continuously developed. Another phrase that I think is so important is executive presence inspires trust and influence. When you think about ano yung mararamdaman ng mga tao pagkatapos kakausapin, pagkatapos mo silang samahan, executive presence means that people will feel like they can trust you, that they want to listen to you and to hear what you're saying. It means they feel safe and open in the situation with you. So that's what I hope we can remember, that we leave people with that feeling of trust and that feeling of wanting to listen to us and to learn from us and with us. Executive presence at the end of the day is about creating that environment for people. So what I want us to remember is unlocking executive presence is not about changing who you are. Hindi ibig sabihin na dapat mas malakas ako magsasalita or kailangan babaan ko yung boses ko para mas paniwalaan ako. So hindi ibig sabihin kailangan bibili ako ng bagong mga damit para mas gumanda yung blazers ko. So that's not what I want you to focus on when it comes to executive presence. Executive presence is simply about recognizing what's unique in you and enhancing that so you can apply that when you show up, when you speak up, and when you contribute with impact. Again, it's not about changing who you are, but it's about enhancing your strengths and your uniqueness. So I hope that's something we can all remember about executive presence. Now that we know what executive presence means, we have to dig into what contributes to an individual's executive presence. What are the elements of this concept so we can break it down and understand it further? So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to give you the 5 elements of executive presence, and then we're going to discuss it one by one as we go through our session. First element is character. So, sino ka ba? Anong klaseng tao ka? Number 2 is gravitas. I love saying that word because it sounds so different. So gravitas is really like your presence, your impression that you leave with people. Substance. May kabuluhan ba? Nagme-make sense ba yung sinasabi mo? Communication is how you say the things that you're talking about. And then the last element is situational awareness, or your ability to read the room and be sensitive to the other people around you. These are the 5 elements of executive presence, and we adapted this from 2 different models. The first is by Sylvia Ann Hewlett. So, Sylvia Ann Hewlett was the 2014 HR Magazine most influential international thinker. Sylvia Hewlett is a Cambridge economist and professor, so very, very credible in terms of thinking about how do you exude influence and exude authority and expertise. The second model that we used is by Suzanne Bates. So, Suzanne Bates has a book that came out in 2016, which is called All the Leader You Can Be, and it's focusing on executive presence. Suzanne Bates is, or was, I think, a news anchor who became a communication and executive coach. So, these are things that we know have been applied by many leaders around the world. So, again, everyone, no need to worry. We'll go through each of these one by one. And we're going to do that by applying elements of our case study. So, eto, hindi ako magtatanong ha kung sinong nagbasa or hindi. But, let's first help out those who may not have read the case study. What are the different challenges and concerns of our main character, Sharon Cruz? While we're thinking about this, maybe all of you can pull up your case studies right now, try to spot what are those challenges and concerns. So, si Sharon Cruz is our main character. She is a high-performing employee working in a construction firm. So, this construction firm is a pretty big firm. They have projects nationwide in the whole Philippines. Si Sharon is, yes, a female, and is earlier in career. So medyo younger siya compared to the other people in the company. I wonder, maybe we can hear from some of you. Jonah, you mentioned that one of the concerns of Sharon is her accent. Baka you can explain a bit to your classmates here. Ano yung concern niya or challenge niya about her accent? Maybe you can unmute Jonah if that's okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello, Jonah.
The accent is all about she fluently express her accent, ma'am, well. So that's why ang co-colleagues cannot kuan, ma'am, is different from her.
Yeah. Oo, thank you so much, Jonah, 'di ba? Sabi natin dun sa case, medyo iba siya sa colleagues niya. So just a bit of a background. Sharon Cruz, made up character by the way. So Sharon Cruz came from humble beginnings. Hindi siya umattend sa big universities that we all know about. So, medyo iba siya dun sa mga katrabaho niya, like what Jonah said. She speaks a little bit differently, maybe it sounds differently, but if you think about it, she does express herself well. It's just that it sounds a little bit different. So thank you so much, Jonah and Grace, for talking about that in the chat. Justin, how about you? Are you okay to unmute? Maybe you can tell us a bit about Sharon's concerns when it comes to communication and persuasion.
So I researched about executive presence in advance po, and one of the key components of executive presence is communication skills rather, and a confidence and authority to express what you have to say. Also the charisma and the credibility and clarity and conciseness of what you say. So I think Miss Sharon has a problem with that, and that is the reason why her bosses cannot is not what do you call this is not choosing her ideas. and choosing instead the ideas of her colleagues most of the time.
Mm. Yeah, thank you so much, Justine, and nice to see you again. So I
Thank
love
you
the
po.
things that you shared from your research as well. So tama yung sinabi ni Justine, 'di ba, na uh see Sharon is quite concerned about how she talks. Like people don't listen to her as much. They don't consider her ideas as much as they do with their other colleagues. Also, if you look at the case, yung sabi dito, si Sharon, ninenervyos siya. So she gets nervous easily. And then when she gets nervous, she tends to talk faster. So bumibilis yung pagsalita niya kasi na kinakabahan na siya. And like what Efren said in the chat, Sharon is a creative thinker. So Sharon has a lot of ideas, a lot of good, innovative thoughts, and gusto niya yun i-share. Pero pag kinakabahan na siya, bumibilis yung salita niya. Tapos hindi na siya maintindihan ng iba. So these are some of the concerns and challenges. Another concern would be that Sharon is, pretty progressive, but the industry and the company that she is in is still a bit traditional and not as adaptable to change. These are some of the challenges that our main character is facing. Hopefully, for the ones who were not able to read the case, that helps you get an idea of who Sharon is and what she's going through. Because what we're going to do is, as we dig into each element, we're going to try to help Sharon and think about what are some things that she can do to enhance her executive presence. Okay? First element is character. Character is about who you are. It pertains to your trustworthiness and your integrity. So it's really about, 'di ba, sino ka? Ano ba ang values mo that you apply at work and outside of work? We can strengthen our character by, number one, doing what we say we will do. So, ibig sabihin lang yan, pag nag-commit tayo to a task, if we commit to a project, we do it. We submit it in the right time. We do the projects assigned to us. We reach our KPIs. We do the tasks daily that we have to get done. So we do what we say we do. It's important for character to do that because when we do what we say we do, then it's signaling to others that we can commit and we can follow through on those commitments. Number two is to stay above the office gossip. So what does that mean? What that means is, hindi na tayo makikipagkwentuhan sa mga tao, di ba? Hindi na tayo sasali when people are talking in the pantry. So it's not about that, and it's not about telling people, oh, bad kayo, bawal makipag-usap about others. So what you want to do is to stay above that by, finding the confidence to help other people to also talk about these things in more productive ways. I'll give you an example. So let's say, for example, you're talking with your friends in the office and someone brings up office gossip na, "Hoy, alam mo, si Ana, mapapromote na naman." Bakit na-promote? Kasi sip-sip, di ba? Sip-sip sa boss. Lagi na lang nagtatrabaho kung wari busy siya kapag nandyan si boss para makitang busy siya. Then they start gossiping about Ana. So what do you do in that situation? Instead of just shutting it down and saying, stop na ha, wag na natin pag-usapan si Ana. We have to be able to be the ones putting that in a more productive light. So what we can say is, oh, okay, it seems like there's a concern here about Anna's work behaviors. At mga na-observe nyo, may specific ba kayong actions na na-observe na ginawa ni Anna that would imply na nagkukunwari lang siyang busy? What have you done? Have you talked to Anna about it? Nasabi niyo na kaya kay Anna? Alam ba ni Anna na yan yung perception ng ibang tao sa kanya? Baka naman pwede tayong maging friendly with Anna and tell her na, alam mo minsan, ito yung sinasabi ng mga tao sa iyo eh. Gusto namin matulungan ka so that you don't have that kind of perception at work. So, I hope you can see the difference there because what we want is to be the person in the office who can actually be trustworthy enough to point out what needs to be pointed out and someone with enough integrity to try to work on creating a better, more positive place for everyone. So that's what I hope we can try to do, which is kind of hard, I know, for the culture that we're in. But we can always try that. And to do that, to stay above the office gossip, one of the strategies we can do is to give clear and direct feedback in an empathetic approach. Instead of beating around the bush and, telling people, alam mo, may mga taong nagba-backstab sa'yo. You know what? Just be clear and say, Anna, I heard from some people that this might be their perception about you. I wanted to give you that feedback so you're more aware that this is how you're perceived at work. Is there something I can do to support you as you think about this further? So, diba? Mas clear, mas direct, and you're being empathetic because you're showing that you want to help this person improve. You want to help this person in the long run. So these are some of the things we can do to strengthen our character. Now, what do you think? Based on what we read in the case, what might we imply about Sharon's character? Ano yung mga facts dun sa case that could tell us about what kind of person Sharon might be? So let's see, type one phrase, one word in the chat. What do we know about Sharon's character so far? Yan. Yeah, diba? So maybe in terms of like her confidence in herself, medyo unsure pa siya. Mm-hmm. Mirna, I'd love to hear from you. What are the things in the case that makes you think confident si Sharon? So baka you can unmute Mirna and share a little bit about that, if that's okay.
Hello, ma'am. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Yeah, ma'am, doon sa ano niya, doon sa case study, nakita ko ma'am na nasi-share naman niya yung kanyang mga ideas. So, yun nga lang, hindi pa ganong accepted. Possibly because she's new in the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, yun
Yeah,
ang,
yeah.
Mhm. That's all,
Sorry,
ma'am.
go ahead.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you so much, Mirna. So tama 'di ba? May confidence naman siya in a way because high performer si Sharon, right? I hope you were all able to look at that. Sharon is a high performer and consistently delivers excellent results, which means 'di ba, yung first strategy natin is do what you say you will do. So it seems like Sharon is doing what she says she will do and doing what needs to be done. So may confidence siya in that sense because nagde-deliver naman siya. In a way though, yung uncertainty niya about herself and about how to improve herself might be affecting the way that she relates with others in the workplace. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she knows she excels in her work, but at the same time, there are still things that she would need to improve on. So great. Siguro what we can say about Sharon's character is she already has a lot of good foundations in terms of being able to credibly deliver on the work that she needs to do. But there's still some more that she needs to develop in terms of showing up with others, being able to relate with them, and showing them that she's trustworthy enough to have these new ideas and for them to take on those ideas. So great. Thank you so much, everyone. Now that we're done with character, let's go to gravitas. So gravitas is about how you present yourself. What do we mean by that? It pertains to someone's confidence and professional polish appropriate to the context. So it's kind of like the first impressions that you get. Na-experience nyo na ba na like when someone walks in the room or even just like on Zoom chat, when you see someone, you immediately think, okay, parang interesting yung taong yan, di ba? Or meron siyang something, meron siyang impression that makes you want to talk to them or that makes you trust them and believe them. So medyo related siya to charisma if you think about gravitas. What are some of the things we can do to develop this? I know that sometimes we think charisma is innate, di ba? Like, yung mga artista, malakas yung charisma, kaya nga sila nag-artista. But, you know, these are things we can develop. So what are some of the things that we can do? Number one, reflect on your strengths and positive qualities. When you know what you're good at, when you know what's special about you, it can give you an added boost of confidence. And that added boost of confidence can help you present yourself better. So now, everyone, what I'm going to ask you to do is put your fingers on your keyboard or on your phone, and then you're going to type, what do you think is your strength? Or what is a positive quality about you that you're proud of? Lahat tayo gagawin to, ah. And no one here knows each other anyway, di ba? Hindi nyo naman makikita yung isa't isa in person. So go ahead, iyabang nyo na in the chat. What are you good at? This can be a skill, an attitude, di ba? Multitasking, masipag, adaptable, maganda, ano pa, gwapo, may sense of humor, magaling kumanta, magaling sumayaw. What else, everyone? Type your strength and your positive quality in the chat. Ano pa? Flexible. Let's see. So this is our chance, everyone. I'm asking you to do this because actually reflecting on our strengths and what we're good at, it helps boost our confidence. Ayun, ang ganda nung kay Monique, diba? Mabilis sumagap ng balita. Okay? Ano pa? Meron ba dyang mga sobrang Latina? What are your positive qualities? Friendly. I love that. Okay. So think about that. It's not about being mayabang, di ba? It's about really knowing who you are and knowing what you bring to the table. When we are reflecting on our strengths, we're looking at what can I contribute to the team, the department, the organization. When we know our strengths, then we can better apply that and show up. So this is a good exercise, everyone. Just a little tip before you go into your presentations or even just like a very important meeting with your boss or your colleagues, try to remind yourself of the things that you're proud of, like your good qualities, because that will help you stand up straighter. It'll help you be a bit more confident knowing those things about you. Number two, observe what clothes fit you well and you're comfortable in depending on the situation. I know it sounds very external. It sounds very like outside appearance, but these are important, especially when we're making first impressions. So what I would say is try to observe around you at work. Like, what do the people you admire wear? How do they look like? How do they present themselves? And then try it out for yourself. i-observe mo, di ba? Mas comfortable ba ako naka-pants o naka-skirt? Mas okay ba sa akin kapag itong kulay na to yung suot ko? Comfortable ba ako na nakaputi or natatakot ako masyadong matapunan ng coffee? So, mas comfortable akong dark colors. These are little things, di ba? It sounds so nonsense in a way, but when you're wearing something that you're comfortable with and that you know you look good in, it actually helps you bring that confidence and that gravitas in the room that you're going into. So again, be more observant about that. It's not about being a fashionista or a stylish person. It's just about knowing what works well for you and the situation you're in. And then number 3 is to show warmth in your own way. Ayoko yung feedback na sasabihan kang smile all the time. And minsan naiinis ako pagka ganun yung feedback. So, what I like to do is to think about, how do I show warmth with people around me? Isipin nyo, when you're with your friends, how do you relate with them? When you're with people that you're comfortable with, pwedeng family, pwedeng friends, what do you do with these people? If you're the kind of person na you show warmth by smiling, use that when you're in your meetings. Use that in your presentations. Pagpasok mo pa lang, smile ka na, di ba? Para makita ng mga tao, okay, like this is someone I would want to talk to. Nod, so you're acknowledging the other person you're talking to. When we nod, it's like you're telling them, I hear you, I see you, nandito ako, nandito ka, and I'm glad nag-uusap tayo, pinapakinggan kita. So that's what you're doing when you're nodding. And thank you, si Peter is nodding while I talk, so I know you're listening to me, diba? All right. And then also when you talk to people, look them in the eye. Hindi naman yung tititigan mo lang, but once in a while, glance at their eyes so that you know that you're connecting with them. When you're in a Zoom call, I know it's difficult to look people in the eye, but what you can do is when you're talking, look directly at the camera, okay? So if you're looking directly at the camera, it would make a person feel like you're talking to them, okay? So these are the 3 things that we can do to develop our gravitas. Now, let's help our friend Sharon Cruz. What can Sharon do to develop her gravitas? Kita naman natin sa case, di ba? Marami siyang insecurities about different things. So if you were giving Sharon advice, what strategies will you tell her to try out? So you can type that in the chat, 1 word or 1 phrase. Let's help Sharon out. What ideas would you all have? And I'll give you a few seconds, parang mahaba-haba yung tinatype nila, okay? Ano pa? So thank you for that, Justine. Okay, yeah, so diba, focusing on her strengths instead of comparing herself with others, that's a very good thing to think about. While you're all thinking and typing, I'll give you an example. So when I was in the US, when I was doing my master's, my job was a career coach. So I was coaching people as they did their mock interviews, as they edited their resumes so they can apply for jobs. International students usually have a very, very hard time, especially international students from like China, South Korea, Japan. For most of them, English is just their second language, and it's not something that they practiced a lot before coming to the US. So I had one coachee, like naiiyak na talaga siya kasi sinasabi niya, feeling ko hindi ko kaya mag-English, feeling ko i-judge ako ng interviewer kasi hindi ako marunong. Yun yung mga feelings niya, kaya down na down siya. But, if you think about it, having English as a second language means that you have more than one language. So that means you're bilingual or trilingual or whatever that is. Lalo na dito sa Pilipinas, di ba? People most of the time, marunong ka na mag-Filipino, marunong ka pa mag-English, and then those who grew up in the province, meron ka pang third language that you speak in your own province, whether that's Ilocano, Bisaya, whatever. So having English as a second language means you have so many different perspectives because you have other languages that you can speak. According to research, if you have languages that you can, multiple languages that you can speak, that also gives you a richer way of describing the world around you. It gives you a richer perspective. Example pa lang, sa iba-ibang language, may iba-ibang way of describing rice. Para sa English American, rice is rice. Pero for us, di ba, merong tutong na rice na matigas, merong mga, ano ba yung iba-ibang way natin? May mga malagkit na rice, may rice na, ano yung parang fluffy na rice na madali siya maghiwa-hiwalay. Di ba marami tayong iba-ibang ways of doing that. So immediately, we're saying that we have a very rich way of looking at the world. So that's what we talked about, me and my coachee, na yun yung pwede niyang ipakita sa interviews niya, na ang diverse ng perspective niya. And that's a strength that she can bring into organizations. So for Sharon, that's also something that I hope she can think about. Her different background, her different accent from her colleagues, it's actually a strength that she can bring to the table. All right, ano pa? So, ang advice that other people will give is you can attend various training related to improving self-confidence. Very true, di ba? Maraming personal development courses or sessions. I even know of some leaders who they do training on modeling. So, yung mga training na ginagawa ng models, some executives do that. Bakit? Because it teaches you how to stand up straighter, how to have better posture. It teaches you how to walk better in the room when you're entering. So, di ba, ang daming pwede nating pagkuhanan ng tips and tricks. So, Peter said, well, they'll help Sharon by telling her to develop self-confidence and yeah, you know, think about the positive things that you can do. Also, di ba, even think about the challenges you've encountered in life and how you got through that. That might also give you an added boost of confidence. So strengthen her capabilities. Yeah, this is a good one as well, diba? Approach colleagues in a way that it's not saying I know everything, but showing them that you value their idea and connecting your idea with their idea. Oh, that's a very good tip. Thank you so much for that, Ina. So this is an interesting one as well. Pray, pursue what is right, avoid negativity, focus on progress. So actually, spirituality or, you know, having some way that you can think about yourself in the context of the world, whether that's through religion, whether that's through some people meditate, diba? Whatever you can do to ground yourself and to understand that there's a bigger world around you, people say that really helps in shifting your perspectives. So yeah, that's a very good tip as well there, Maria. And then another tip here, asking friends what her strengths are so she can improve them. Yeah, that's a very good tip because your friends will be able to tell you kung bakit sila friends mo. And maybe that's a good positive quality that you can build on. So great, everyone. I'm glad that we're all seeing different ways to improve that gravitas. Maybe yung mga binibigay nating tips kay Sharon, you can also think about what would work for you. Next, let's go to substance. So substance is what you say. Of course, the content of our language. That's also very important. Substance will be able to signal our expertise, our contributions, and the insights that we can share. Here are some ways that we can develop our substance. Number one, constantly learning. One of the things you can do is to consume content in your field or your industry that will help you to gain a deeper understanding. It doesn't have to be like doing deep research all the time. So one of the things I like to do, for example, is I subscribe to newsletters related to HR or organizational development so that, once a day or once a week, I get an email about the newsletter. I just quickly scan the articles just to give me an idea of what's happening out there, give me an idea of the words that people use, the new terms coming up. So you can do that. You can also look at YouTube, diba? Sino yung mga content creator in your field or your industry that maybe you can subscribe to so that you can just casually watch their videos and learn from that. TikTok would be a good one as well. Look into people in your field para pag nag-pop up siya sa For You page mo, pwede kang makinig kahit 30 seconds lang. But syempre, we're going to take it with a grain of salt and really just follow credible people who have expertise in the field they're in. So again, everyone, learning doesn't have to be just via training. It doesn't have to be just via researching in books or journal articles. It's also about consuming easy, bite-sized content so you can get a pulse of what's happening in the field or industry you're in. Next is to share what you know in the appropriate time and space with the appropriate people. So this is about being able to openly talk about your passions and your ideas, your creative thoughts. But kailangan alam natin kung kailan yun dapat gawin. For example, if the meeting is just about your routine tasks and updates lang siya, mabilisang meeting lang, 15 minutes, parang hindi siguro appropriate to give your random creative idea and if kailangan pa siyang i-discuss ng mahaba. So really think about when is it appropriate to share the things you want to share so that people are ready to have that conversation with you. Minsan kasi, if hindi sila ready makinig, sayang, di ba? Baka hindi nila ma-appreciate yung substance ng ideas na sinishare natin. And then the third strategy is to structure your ideas properly. Start with the main point and then present key evidence to support that main point. What I'm going to do is to introduce this principle to you. So this is the Minto Pyramid Principle. It's a top-down approach on communication. So what you want is when you're thinking about what you want to share with leaders or colleagues, isipin niyo muna yung main point. Tanungin niyo yung sarili niyo. Ano yung end goal na gusto mong matutunan ng mga tao? Ano yung sagot na gusto mong malaman nila from what you're going to share? Yun yung unahin mong sabihin. Para alam na nila kung ano yung topic ng isi-share mo. So again, the goal here isn't to surprise people with your main idea at the end of your presentation. Tell them right away what they need to know. After that, you go to the second part, supporting arguments. You need to support that main point with a high-level insight. So kailangan, meron kang masasabi na bakit, di ba? Bakit importante yung main point na yon? That's insight number 1. To support each insight, you need to give supporting data or facts. Kailangan meron tayong evidence, may analysis that will support that insight. It's good if you get this data from surveys, for example, or from research that you do. So again, ito yung gusto nating structure. Give your main point. Tell them, I have 3 insights that support this main point, and then we are going to go through these insights one by one. First, insight number 1, the data that we gathered to support that is from this survey telling us that XYZ percentage wants XYZ. For the second insight, we got the data from research on best practices. This is a benchmark data from a co-competitor, etc., etc. So kapag ganito tayo mag-present, ito yung mas papakinggan ng leaders, lalo na ng executives. Kasi nasa structure nila yung information in their heads. On the flip side, everyone, this is also how you can structure information that you receive. My challenge for you is, when you're listening to a leader or an executive present, try to extract the triangle or the pyramid in your head. Kapag ka may nag-explain, isipin nyo, ano yung main point na sinasabi ng taong to? Ano yung insights na nagsusupport at ano yung evidence na nagsusupport ng insights? One of the best pieces of advice I've ever received in my career is to use a blank notebook na walang lines. Para kapag nakikinig ako sa presentations ng iba, pwede ako mag-drawing ng flowcharts or ng triangle, like the pyramid I'm showing you, and then I can take notes there of the main point and the insights and the supporting data. So try if that works for you. It definitely works for me because it helps me to dissect the ideas and sharing of other people as well. All right. So that's substance. Ituloy na natin to communication because it's related. And then we'll discuss Sharon again. Communication is how you say it. So now it's about the clarity, tone of voice, and your ability to command attention. What are some of the things that we can do to develop that? Number 1, this is so awkward, but we can practice in front of a mirror. Or, yung mas gusto kong tip is to get your phone and record yourself as you rehearse your speech or your presentation. So, i-video nyo yung sarili nyo. Because when you watch it back, it's kind of cringe and awkward, but at least it will tell you what you can improve on. Kasi kapag plinay mo yung video, mas makikita mo, ano ba yung words na paulit-ulit kong sinasabi? Nag-ba ako palagi? Ano ba yung mga hand gestures ko na distracting sa iba, di ba? So, mas makikita natin yung mga yan sa video. To take it further, you could also ask the people you trust. If you have a friend or a family member that you're comfortable with, maybe you can practice with them and then you can ask them, what do you like about my communication style? Or what do you think can I work on further so I can be a better communicator? Number 2 is to pause and to breathe. Minsan kasi, kapag ka-excited tayo mag-share, tuloy-tuloy-tuloy lang tayo, di ba? But it's okay to pause. Sometimes we try to avoid the dead air or the silence, but my advice for you is to not be afraid of that. If you need to pause to collect your thoughts, that's okay. Minsan nga, kahit na hindi ko kailangan mag-isip, it's good to kind of pause. Kasi mas na-excite yung mga tao makinig. Iisipin nila, ba't siya nag-pause? Anong sasabihin niya? Exciting ba yung sasabihin niyang sunod? So, these are little things that you can do. One thing you can also think about is breathing, especially at the end of each idea. So, for example, in our presentation today, because I'm giving you 3 strategies per element, right? What I can do is I can breathe after number 1. Hinga. Number 2, hinga ulit. So, importante yun to also ground yourself. And it shows confidence, it shows calm as you deliver your presentations. And then number 3 is to explicitly emphasize key points and important ideas. I don't know if you've noticed, but earlier, especially when we were talking about the definition, di ba lagi kong inuulit, what I hope you can remember. Or I would say something like, what I want you to focus on. So these are things that would signal the key points of your presentation. Don't be afraid to say things like that. When we do that, we're telling the other people that, hey, like these are the important parts of what I'm telling you. I'm helping you to remember. So it's okay, diba? Again, some of the things you can say are, what I want you to focus on is, so I'd like to point out, I just want to emphasize XYZ. So these are just some little tips and tricks that maybe could help you out in the future. But for now, let's go back to our friend Sharon. So what do you think? What can Sharon do to develop substance and communication? The last 2 elements that we just talked about. So kung ikaw, bibigyan mo ng advice si Sharon, ano yung one advice na ibibigay mo sa kanya about substance and communication? Yeah, pwedeng be yourself, di ba? Because it's about showing up as well. Related siya dun sa gravitas that we talked about. Yeah, Justine said being more precise in giving ideas and insights. Very true. Diba, sabi natin sa case, minsan nagra-ramble siya kasi kinakabahan siya. So maybe breathing para mas hindi siya kabahan. Okay. Yan. Reina Bell, I wonder, is it okay if we hear from you? Maybe you can unmute yourself. What is the importance of breathing as she speaks, especially for someone like Sharon?
Hi.
Hi.
Well, my thoughts are because in the story here, it says that she tends to be very conscious of her accent, and that makes her nervous even more when she speaks. So I think if she does breathing exercises the way you explained it kanina, wherein there are points, no, in her speech or when she talks, when she talks, yes, that she takes time to breathe, baka mas maiintindihan siya and mas convey niya yung gusto niyang i-communicate, whether those are ideas, no? Kasi she tends to be an innovative person. She has a lot of ideas. So sayang naman kung hindi niya mai-communicate. So that's it. So I think breathing is really very important.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you so much, Reina Bell.
Thank you.
Tama, diba? Sayang na sayang kapag ang ganda ng ideas mo, tapos hindi mo siya ma-explain ng maayos kasi kinakabahan siya. So, thinking about that, breathing even before your presentation, that works as well, diba? Deep breath, so you can regulate yourself. There's some research, you could look it up by Amy Cuddy. So Amy Cuddy is a Harvard professor. Meron din siyang tinatawag niyang mga power poses that you can do before your presentation. The idea behind that being our actions can send signals to our brain. Kasi usually reverse, di ba? Usually sinasabi natin sa brain natin, be more confident. Tas at saka ka stand up straight. But in Amy Cuddy's research, the reverse also works. That you can try to do a power pose. You can stand up straighter, and your body will signal to your brain that, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling more confident. So that might be something you can try as well if that works for you. Okay, trying not to overthink, doing more research on the topic, mastery of subject matter. Yeah. So, diba, Sharon being earlier in career, even if she already has a lot of expertise, meron pa at merong matututunan. For all of us naman, di ba? Whether we're already later in our career or in the middle, we always have a lot of things to learn. All right, so good job, everyone. Thank you for helping Sharon out. Let's go to our last element, which is situational awareness. Situational awareness is how you react. It shows your understanding of other people and your ability to read the room. Essentially, it's about your interaction with others. Kasi minsan iniisip natin executive presence is all about you, di ba? Gaano ako ka-confident, gaano ako kagaling, gaano kaganda when you walk in the room. But it's actually also about the feeling that you leave with the people around you. So we can develop our situational awareness by, number one, ask the person you're talking to if they are ready for the conversation you would want to have with them. So, di ba kanina sabi natin, we need to share the right information at the appropriate time. So, part of that is, kung hindi ka sure kung appropriate yung time, tanungin mo na lang. Ask the people around you, hey, like, is it okay for you to receive feedback right now? Are you open to that right now? If not, let me know, then maybe we can schedule a one-on-one meeting later where I can talk to you more. So, pwede mo rin tanungin, boss, meron po kasi akong idea about this project. Okay po ba na i-share ko yun ngayon? Or would you like na i-email ko na lang po? Anong nagwo-work? Diba? So, mas nalilesen natin yung possibility na we'll get frustrated if hindi sila makinig. Kasi nga, tinatanong natin sila kung kailan ka ba ready makinig. So that also signals to the other person that you're very sensitive to who they are and to what they're ready to hear. All right. Number two is to make space for others who have not had the chance to speak. Kailangan aware din tayo na may ibang tao around us. We have to be an ally for them. So for example, lalo na if we see other women who have not had a chance to be heard, we can ask them, like, hey, I noticed Sharon has been trying to talk but hasn't been given the chance. Maybe we can hear from Sharon. Or pwede mo sabihin, alam nyo, guys, parang kanina pa yata may gusto i-share si Sharon. Baka pwede natin pakinggan muna siya. So that's called being an ally to others. And when we do that, it also enables other people to be an ally for you as well. Kasi next time na ikaw naman yung hindi makasingit or makasalita, baka matulungan ka rin nila. And then three, which, is one of the problems of Sharon, we have to acknowledge interruptions firmly but respectfully. When we feel like we're not being listened to or we're not being heard by the people around us, it's something that we have to take head on. Hindi natin pwede sabihin na, hindi, baliwala na lang natin yan. Next time na lang, next time. So dapat ma-acknowledge natin siya. There's a way to do that firmly and also still in a respectful manner. Before I give you some tips on that, tingnan muna natin what are some tips that you might be able to give so that Sharon can address the concern about people interrupting her or not listening to her. Kung ikaw, anong sasabihin mo kay Sharon? Let's see. What will you tell Sharon? This is one of the hard things to think about, no? Meron na ba kayong na-encounter in the past? Yeah, you can empathize with them. You can listen first and then respond. Pwede. What other ways have you seen people deal with interruptions? And I'll give an example of a tip, diba? So you can use a firm but calm voice and then say something like, "Thank you for that idea. We can revisit that after I finish sharing my thought." Diba? Simple, still very respectful. It shows that you acknowledged what they shared, but you want people to know na patapusin niyo ako. Kailangan matapos ko yung sinasabi ko. It's also a sign of respect towards me. Yeah? So other things you can say are, great, thank you for your input on that. Let's discuss that more offline. Or let's discuss that more in a separate meeting because it might not be appropriate for this setting. Diba? So acknowledge and then find a way to transition that into a different setting or into a later conversation. So that's one. Number two, show through your body language that you're listening, but don't back down. So what do I mean by that? When someone is interrupting you, try to lean in, diba? Lean in, nod, show that you're listening to them. Pero ang hindi dapat natin gawin ay to start stooping down, start crouching or looking down na parang napahiya tayo. That's because people don't always interrupt us with bad intent naman, di ba? Like at the end of the day, maybe hindi lang nila ma-stop yung sarili nila or they're so excited about their idea as well. That's why they interrupted or they feel like they're going to forget their question if they don't interrupt. So, we have to show that, yes, like I'm listening, but I also know that what I need to share is important. So just don't back down, lean in, show that you're listening and not. Okay? Number 3, pause first after the interruption, then pick up where you left off. So after the person interrupts, diba, we say, "Great, thank you for that idea. Let's revisit it later." As I was saying earlier, diba, para you're also giving people a signal na, okay, let's breathe and then transition back into what I was saying. Okay? Pause and breathe, very important. Number 4, you can already, and I think some of you said this in the chat, I'm just reading now. So you can already set a norm or a rule in the beginning of the meeting that people are not going to interrupt each other. So yeah, Alfie's suggestion about a rule. So usually we call that norm setting, and you can do that in the beginning of each meeting. So that's one of the pre-meeting things that we can do to set the right environment. Number 5 is you can follow up in writing. So if you feel like your idea wasn't heard or it was interrupted, you can send an email after the meeting and say, like, "Hey, everyone, I just wanted to make sure that we don't lose this idea that I want to share. I'm sending an email to make sure we document it and remember." Then put your idea. So pwede rin naman yun para ma-reinforce. Okay, so yes, at the end of the day, like what you all said, stay calm, acknowledge the idea, then give opinions to other people. Another thing that's common is when people claim credit for something you've done, right? So when that happens, what you can say is, you can say, "Hey, like, thank you for reinforcing that idea I shared earlier. I'm glad you support me on this." Diba? So medyo ini-imply mo na, sinabi ko na yan kanina, but you're saying it respectfully by telling them, "Thank you for supporting me on that." So that's a technique I like to do sometimes when that happens. I like Efren's chat also. So you can tell them that, like, "Hey, thank you for that. You can ask me that question again later at the end of the presentation." So good advice there as well. Everyone, we talked a lot about what Sharon can do, and I'm glad that we have different ideas that came up through our case study. So, now that we've talked about all 5 elements of executive presence, I just want you all to remember that unlocking executive presence is not about changing who you are. Again, it's about enhancing what's unique to you. It's about enhancing the way you show up, the way you speak, the way you contribute. Use the different strategies and techniques that we've talked about so you can enhance your own style. With that, everyone, that is the end of our very quick session for this month's free webinar. Let's review all together, okay? At the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to unmute and then re-recite natin ano yung 5 elements of executive presence, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, unmute everyone.
Character.
Okay, what is the
Gravitas.
first one?
Character.
Character.
Perfect. Number 2,
Gravitas.
gravitas. Yes, number 3,
Substance.
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 Communication.
Number 4,
Communication.
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 perfect.
Situational
Number 5,
Situational
awareness.
awareness.
Situational awareness.
good job. Give yourselves a round of applause, everyone. Okay. So thank you all so much. And you can mute yourselves back now. So good job remembering all of that. Madali lang naman, di ba? At the end of the day, executive presence is it's kind of common sense in terms of developing it. Kailangan lang mas aware tayo sa sarili natin, mas pinapractice natin. And what I hope is you walk away from today with the confidence na kaya mo. Kasi nga lahat naman tayo, iba-iba tayo ng uniqueness, iba-iba tayo ng skills, di ba? So, hindi natin kailangan gayahin ang isa't isa in the kind of style that we bring to the table. And with that, everyone, to end our session, one last question for all of you. What is the one thing that you will continue to practice as you develop your executive presence? Syempre, dapat may baon tayo na ipapractice. So type that in the chat. One word or one phrase. What will you do para ikaw naman, ma-develop mo din yung executive presence mo, just like what Sharon Cruz, in our case, is trying to do? Continue learning, yes. Communication, mastering the strategies there. A lot of people are saying communication. Great. Ano pa? Practice some more. Yes, yes. Very important. Kahit na hindi sa work, di ba? Practice lang. Practice talking about something you're interested in. Practice presentations. Yeah, developing your character as well, di ba? Easier said than done. Mindfulness and communication. Perfect. Self-confidence. Yeah, developing your skills as well is very important. Great job, everyone. So thank you all for sharing that. I hope you continue working on that para step by the step. Joke lang. Para step by step, lahat tayo will reach the success of executive presence. Okay, so now that we have identified one thing that we will all do, here's what's next. So please connect with us. I think most of you found us through Facebook, but in case not, you can connect with us, Elisha Corpus Consulting on Facebook, and please leave a review if you can. Number 2, if you need some career tips and advice, I will encourage you to download the Job Street app. So last year, I shot a couple of videos with Job Street. Very, very nicely done, everyone. The videos are well produced, so good quality talaga siya. We talked about career tips like how do you write a resume, a cover letter, even a resignation letter. So that might be helpful. Marami pa ring ibang videos doon, not just me. So that's something that might be useful for you. And it's all for free. And then, of course, very, very important, answer the evaluation form and request for a certificate using the link that I just shared in the chat. So do not forget to do that, everyone. The form will be open for 2 hours only after the session. If we end at 4 o'clock, that means 6 o'clock, I'm going to close the form. And then again, reminder, certificates will be given within 1 week. Also, one last quick reminder, book a call with us if you'd like to learn more about partnering with us for your own organization. We create customized solutions for organizations, for companies. So please, if you're interested in that, send us an email and then we can schedule an intro call to talk about it further. Again, everyone, that should be it for the reminders. Thank you all so much for learning with us this month. Do not forget your certificate. Answer the form. If you have any questions, you can type it in the chat or you could also unmute and we can talk about it. But like what we always do, for those who do not have any more questions, feel free to log off the call and have a great rest of your Wednesday. If you have a question, you can stay behind, type it in the chat or unmute and tell us your question. So we'd be happy to take questions, as many as we can. All right, thank you all so much. Don't forget your form. Again, if you have no questions, feel free to leave. Malapit na mag-uwian, so have a safe trip back home if you're in the office. Alright, may question ba tayo?
Wala na po, ma'am.
Wala naman. Alright, thank you so much. Nice to hear from you. Alright,
Thank you. Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Short
Thank
and
you, ma'am. Thank you so much,
tayo
ma'am.
for today's topic, no? Very kind of light, but very important. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and rest of March. So it's almost April. Okay. It doesn't look like I'm getting any questions. With that, everyone, I'm going to close the Zoom call in a bit. It was nice seeing all of you. I'm putting the link there in the chat for the last time. So thank you all so much, and I'm going to see you again next month for our monthly free webinars. Bye, everyone.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.